Welcome, Dr. Terri. I'm so happy to have you here. How are you today?
I'm great and happy to be with you. We just found out how like-minded we are, so we want to make a difference for folks.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. Would you like to open with a little bit of your story? How you like why you are doing what you are doing now? Because we know how successful you are, but that why is always the most important.
Thank you for asking that. So I started my journey as a speech language pathologist. I got my master's. I started a business as a speech pathologist, not knowing what to do, and ended up selling that business in 1983 for $1 million. Now, $1 million in 1983 was a lot of money. And I kind of created a formula of how I did business. So I opened a second business, totally different industry, art. And we sold that company a few years later for a little over 12 million. And then I started another company, and it was a rehabilitation company, occupational physical therapy and speech language pathology. And in less than 6 months, we did 88 million. So
Wow.
I knew I had a formula, and I made a mistake along the way. I'm always transparent about that. I took a job in corporate America. I spent 5 years in that, what I now call prison. I was never happy. I'm not a corporate employee. I did not fit in. They loved me because I was increasing their numbers and I was miserable. And oh my gosh, about 30 years ago now, I just one day said, this isn't fulfilling. It's not what's in my heart. And I quit. And I started consulting and coaching, started it that day. And 30 days later, I had 30 clients. And I just knew I was doing the right thing. The way I describe it is I felt at home, like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So I have a formula for successful businesses, and it applies to any kind of a business or industry. And getting aligned with what you're passionate about authentically and not what you think you need to, should do, or have to do. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yes, and it resonates 100% because
I'm not
I
surprised.
was there too, and now I'm coach too, so I know how it
You
feels.
get it. You get it.
Yeah, I felt like I was trapped in a box and I just needed to go out, right?
Exactly. I knew I didn't fit in. And I'm very transparent when people go, well, you had all these successful companies. Why would you take a job? Very transparent. It felt like a big ego thing.
Mm.
I'm president of this national healthcare company. And I thought it was like some big deal until one day I went, I'm just making some other people in a company very, very wealthy. And I'm not doing it in a way where I'm transforming lives or I'm doing what I'm really meant to do.
Mhm.
And so when I really got that, I'm like, I just have to leave. And that's what I did. I told my company, I'm like, I can't do this. And it's not, for me, it's not being in integrity. And they always thought I was going to a competitor. I'm like, honestly, I'm not. They just didn't believe me. I'm like, whatever. And I left, and I'm glad I did. I've never looked back, not for a minute.
I love hearing that, and I'm sure a lot of people who are listening or watching today's feel the same. Now it's a little bit clearer to me, but I would like you to tell us a little bit about the name of your brand and why it's called Heartpreneur.
Thank you for asking. So my company originally was called Comprehensive Coaching. And I was writing a book for my publisher, and he'd already given me the advance, and I was working on the manuscript. And he said, come on over to New York and let's go over the manuscript. So I take the train from Philly to New York. We meet. He starts reading through it and he throws it on the floor and says, I don't want this book. Now we're under contract, and I already have received a pretty good advance. I'm like, what?
Really?
He, yeah, no, really. It's a crazy story. He goes, I've known you for 11 years, Terri, and I want the book on how you do business. Heart-Repreneur. I went, what? He's like, when I think of you, that's the word I think of. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, it'll hit you. Think about it. I don't want this book. So, first I had the same expression you had, like, what do you mean? So I had to take the train home. It's about an hour and a half. And all of a sudden on the train, it's like, wow, I get it. And I started writing and scribbling, and I'm like, Heart-Repreneur stands for transparency, it stands for authenticity, and it stands for integrity. I know what it is. It's how I do business. I teach people to do business heart to heart, no selling, no marketing, no NLP, no overcoming objections, no hunting for clients. I'm like, I get it. And so not only did I start writing the newer book he wanted, that day I started paperwork to change the name of my company and to get the trademark on the word Heart-Repreneur, because it really is what I wanted to do. I want to start a movement to disrupt how business is being done. So we do have a movement. We have over 8,000 people in our Heart-Repreneur Facebook community that are really all into transparency, integrity, and authenticity. So that's where the name came from.
Now I understand why I felt like I know you all my life, even
I
before we
love it.
started the conversation,
Thank you.
because we share the same core values. Integrity, love, and kindness are my three core values, and this is the way how I do business. And I believe that if we tap into that, like more feminine energy than the masculine, egocentric one, we really can make a difference in the world. What do you think about that?
I totally agree with that. Years ago, I had written a couple of Turbocharge Your Business books, and I wrote one specifically, Turbocharge Your Business for Women Entrepreneurs, because women do business differently. And I'm not saying that in a sexist way. I'm also a clinical psychologist. I understand that we are not wired the same. We do not have the same biology. So as much as you want to be like, oh, men could do this too, and women could do, I get all that. However, the way we process information and language and thoughts and feelings, it's not the same. And so the best thing that I can say to those women listening is that more and more people are moving away from doing business transactionally, the way most men have applied. And we do business in a way that is heart to heart, open, communication, listening, authentically. And I will tell you that I think about half my clients are male, and they are literally learning, and have been for years, a new way to do business,
Mhm.
which allows them to embrace their more feminine side. And it really is changing their businesses.
I love hearing that. I really, really do. I mean, now when we have this online world and everything, technologies. I was programmer for 15 years, so it's beautiful to run and to have your own business. But when we talk about marketing, there are so many different ways of doing marketing and so many different strategies, and everyone is suggesting this or that. What would be your suggestion, and what is actually reverse marketing?
Great questions. So I'll tell you how I got to this. In my art business, I really didn't know where to find buyers. And so I found somebody else who had an art company, and she basically taught me all of these sales things. I
Mhm.
knew 112 closes. No matter what you would say, go, that's no problem. And I would go through this with someone for like an hour until they bought. So I had done that for about a week, and I was throwing up every night after my art shows.
Mhm. Mhm.
And my husband's like, what is wrong with you? You're sick to your stomach all the time. I'm like, I convinced these people to buy and they didn't want to buy. And he's like, really? I'm really. And I started to feel sick over it. So I took everything that I owned, every course. I love Zig Ziglar. He was my first mentor. I still took his course, his sales program, every book back in the day, every cassette. I went to a dumpster and I dumped everything. And I said, I am just going to listen to people. I'm not going to do anything else. So I started just listening to people, literally just saying, what's going on, whether it's your business or your life, what's going on? Like, tell me confidentially. Let me just be an ear for you without anything to sell. Like, forget attachment to the outcome. I didn't have anything to offer.
Mhm.
And reverse marketing to me is showing up every single day, serving and creating for your audience, right? So I wear this little bracelet. It says serve and create.
Uh-huh.
And at the end of each day, after I feel like I've fulfilled that, I turn it over and it has a check mark.
So
And I
cool.
tell, it's true. I tell my client family members, all you have to do is wake up in the morning and say, how can I serve and create for my audience? How can I educate them? And the one thing that I do for my clients and makes a huge difference is I have a 5-day email course, and I write one for all of my clients. So I go through and do all this research and create the course. And it's a great lead magnet that gets people just to raise their hands, right? So people start raising their hands. I don't have to go find them. And by the way, if somebody goes through my email course and that they don't want to do anything, I don't go after them. I don't even email them. I don't even contact them. So it's very simple. It's just giving people something of value. So at the end, they can raise their hand and say, hey, that's kind of interesting. I'd like to know more. That's it. It's very simple. And you will have, trust me, a conveyor belt of qualified prospects every single day if you create a very, very valuable educational email course.
That truly resonates with me. And you know, as long as I've been in the business and previously being a programmer, I noticed that there are a lot of, like repurposing this or repurposing that, or he clicked here, let's go get him here, or I just don't feel like doing that. When I'm being myself and providing value and creating content, I feel the best and I have the best results. And this is what I believe people should really, really grasp into, not trying to get all of these, tech stuff done. It's more important to be who you truly are. What do you think about that?
Oh, I love what you just said. If people would just show up and not be a pretend character by email or social media,
Yes.
let's have our stuff together, right? None of our lives, our health, our businesses, and our relationships are perfect. We're all human beings. We're beautiful and literally perfectly imperfect. So I want to show up and just be me. I will tell. I always tell on myself, I made a mistake. I did this, da, 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 whatever it might be. My husband had surgery and was having a lot of difficulty after surgery, got an infection. It's a whole long story. I didn't show up and like dump my sad story on everyone. However, I said, hey, I'm learning some coping mechanisms being a nurse at home. And here's some things that I picked up.
Mhm.
What you need to do every day is just show up. And what you said, be authentic. Even on social media, the word social in front of it. It's not, let me get my stuff in front of you and
Yes,
pitch it.
exactly.
Let's engage. Let's have a social conversation. And if someone comments on one of my posts, it's not crickets. I look at what people say and I create dialogue. So just being very intentional about creating conversation. Every single client family member that I've had over 7,200 client family members, has come from authentic conversation without any desire to sell anybody anything. If they want to buy, believe me. I just got one today that said, do you have a course in this? I said, yes, I do. That's all I said. What, I'd like to buy it. Do you have a link? Yes. Now I have permission to send the link. The opposite of what many people do. Get into your DMs and they're like, hey, I get this all the time, cracks me up. They don't look at my profile. Hey, would you like to get your first client or make $10,000? I'm like, no, I really don't want a salary reduction. Why? So just have really good conversations and create value. We are totally aligned. We're on the same page, Catherine.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I just checked my Gmail this morning. I have like 15,000 emails, which I didn't even open. Probably I signed up somewhere and then they exchange emails and all of that. Just not who we truly are. And this is why I often say these are not leads, they're people, right?
Oh, I agree with that. It's always interesting to me when I'll have clients say, I have 5 leads. I'm like, you have 5 people who raise their hand. Like, leads to me doesn't even sound like the way I want to treat someone. Or my favorite is, I have a new client and I'll say, oh, congratulations. When did they sign up? Well, they didn't sign up yet. Then they're not a new client. So
Exactly.
there's just a couple of things that people have to get a lot of clarity on. I don't count anybody as a client family member until they've actually said yes and allowed me to embrace them and come into the program.
Mhm.
So just give some thought to how we're subconsciously very often stating things. The word lead, like, do you really want to be someone's lead? I want to be someone that I'm new in your world and we're starting a connection. We're building a friendship, a relationship. Like
Exactly.
you and I are right now.
Yes, no one wants to be a lead. I mean, what's because of all of these uh um like things that we say, we make it like we're not human, while actually it should be different. Like, I want more visibility. Why? When you have a store on a street, when 10 people come into your store, you're happy. When 10 people come to your account on social media, you are not happy. So What
Oh,
about
that's a good, by the way, that's a good analogy. That's what you just said. I hope people really breathe that in because it's really, really important. If you did own a retail store or a restaurant or whatever, you'd be so happy to have customers coming in. Yet I hear people say this all the time. Well, my Facebook group only grew by 100. Well, that's 100 human beings who are saying, I'm interested in getting to know you better. That's a lot of wonderful people that you've embraced in your world. So
Mhm.
thank you. That was just a perspective I felt was important to
Thank
restate.
you. Thank you. What about conversion? You were mentioning conversion equation, so would you like to
Yeah.
share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So one of my best-selling books is called The Conversion Equation, The Conversion Equation. And it's based on the formula that I used forever to build all of these 8 multi-million-dollar businesses. I've had every single client trained in this method and they all swear by it. So I will say one thing before I teach it. In the book, this is why I really like to tell people about the book. I actually interviewed tons of my clients and then did case studies on each of these 4 parts, the conversion equation. So no matter what kind of business or industry you're in, you can take a look and go, oh, that business is like mine. I can pull this. Oh, that's what this person did. And that's how they started to get to 6 or 7 figures. I can do this. So here's the formula. Number 1 is interrupt. Interrupt. And I want to explain that to you. And it's good we're having conversation about social media because it ties in. You know, people are scrolling social media and their brains are in what's called downtime.
Mhm.
So downtime, and maybe you've done this, I know I have. Have you ever driven somewhere and been like, I don't remember passing this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's because our brains go into downtime and we have what's called the reticular activating system, which remembers we've done this route a million times. I know how to go. You don't have to be fully in uptime paying attention. So when people are on social media, they're in downtime, which means they're not very conscious and present. So they're scrolling and blah, blah, blah. Nothing interrupts them. The problem is most people post on social media, even in their ads, their posts, their Facebook lives, there's nothing that interrupts people because people keep scrolling. Now, you can interrupt someone by calling them out and saying something like, hey, are you a coach? I'm giving away my $10,000 formula. So if I'm a coach, you might have my attention. If I want to know what your $10,000 formula is, you have my attention. And if that's not me, I'm gone. So
Mhm.
the first thing you need to do is interrupt with a headline your exact target audience. So far, so good?
Mhm. Perfect.
Okay. Step number 2 is now you got their attention. Their brain is in uptime. It's ready to go back into downtime. It's just how the human brain is, unless you do step 2 quickly. And that's engage them. So now that you got me going, huh? Then you've got to give me a little bit of content that gives me something familiar or unfamiliar or some data. The goal is to keep me open and curious. So then you engage them. Some will call it a subheading or a subtitle. Hey, my client Jill just had her first $30,000 month. Do you want to see how she did it? I'm just making that up in the moment. Okay. Third step. This is a very important step. It's educate. Now that you got my attention, you interrupted me, you engaged me. My brain is definitely going, what the heck is this? You've got to. Is she crafted the perfect 9-word email? It's amazing. And it's a perfect 9-word email. And from that 9-word email, she had 43 leads. You just educated me. Oh, a 9-word email, right? I'm still curious and I learned something.
Mhm.
And the final step of the conversion equation is you make a no or low risk offer. And you don't go over here, go buy this, go sign up. No or low risk. So it could be, I'm running a free master class, or I'm going to teach you exactly how to do this. If you'd like to know more, go here. Or it could be, I'm giving away a free email course where I teach the exact system. Would you like it? Go here. Very simple. So it's interrupt, engage, educate, and offer. And I will tell you that formula has my clients and me making literally millions of dollars a year doing nothing else. I mean, nothing else.
This is gold. This is pure gold. And you know, the call to action at the end, you said it so gently and so kind. Like it's no, you know, nothing pushy. It's just like I'm here to help you and to offer you something. If you would like, I will give you my hand. That's all, right?
Exactly. And I want people to think about that because you brought up something really good. A lot of times people go into like a pitch. You don't need a pitch. You don't need to learn a close. You don't need any of these fancy things. All you need is to come from your heart. So I do. I literally extend my hand. And if someone wants to take my hand, they can. If they don't, I'm not going to convince them. You know, my grandmother, when I was a little girl, if you didn't eat some of her food, it was like a personal affront to her, right? And
I
so
know.
where did you get it? I'm just, and she made great food. It's just maybe I wasn't hungry, but it was very slow. So I learned through time that I can extend my hand and someone cannot take it. They can say no. Maybe today's not the best day. Maybe, you know, if I offered lemonade, maybe they don't like lemonade. Maybe they're not thirsty. I don't need to overcome anything. I can simply do this. And if I come from my heart and simply put my hand out, the right people will take my hand. And that is a transformation and a shift in how entrepreneurs do business.
And that's so beautiful because people want to work with people who they trust. And what's the best way to trust someone when we see that someone is coming from the heart space? And yeah, it's completely. This is why I usually my intuition is very high, and I usually feel, you know, when we come from the same, if I may say so, family. But you are truly incredible, and the value which you just shared is it's truly gold. And I'm truly happy to have you here. I think that you can see here. I'm in Europe now, and it's 8:30 p.m. So it's the end of my day, and I was very, very tired. But after this conversation, I feel like I just woke up.
Oh,
So
that's
thank you
good.
not
Thank you.
only for the knowledge which you shared, but for your beautiful energy which you like, you know, spread all around you. I'm truly grateful. If someone would like to work with you or to get in touch with you, what is the best way?
The best way is Facebook. I'm really active on Facebook. I pay a lot of attention on Facebook. My personal profile is the Terri Levine,
Mhm.
or they could just go over to my website, heartrepreneur.com, and they can contact me there. And I just love helping people and sharing. So I would be happy to hear from anyone about any of the things we discussed and anything I can do to help.
Thank you. And thank you for being my guest. I truly, truly enjoyed, and I hope you did too.
I certainly did. And let's stay in touch. I love how you do business.
We will. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.